Have you ever had that weird feeling in your gut about someone? Like you just knew something was off, but you couldn't put your finger on why? Maybe it was a new friend who seemed super nice, but something felt not quite right. Or maybe you met someone for the first time and you instantly clicked like you'd known them forever. These feelings, these hunches, they're not just random. They're not just luck. They're your inner wisdom speaking to you, and guess what? You're probably right about them. Think about it. How many times have you ignored that little voice in your head only to find out later that you should have listened? We've all been there. We brush off our gut feelings, thinking we're just being paranoid or silly. But what if I told you that those feelings, those hunches, are actually based on something real? What if you've been secretly studying people this whole time without even realizing it? That's right. You've been picking up on tiny details, subtle cues, and hidden signals all along. Your brain has been working overtime, noticing things that your conscious mind might miss. It's like you've got this superpower that you didn't even know about. And today, we're going to dive deep into this amazing ability you have. We're going to explore why you should trust your instincts, how they work, and how you can make them even stronger. Now, I know what you're thinking. Me? A secret people reader? No way. I get it. I used to be the same way. I'd have these strong feelings about people or situations, but I'd always second-guess myself. I thought I was just being judgmental or making stuff up in my head. But then, something pretty amazing happened that changed everything for me. A few years ago, I met this guy at a party. Let's call him Mike. Mike was charming, funny, and everyone seemed to love him. But the moment I shook his hand, I felt this weird chill. It wasn't anything he said or did. He was perfectly nice to me. But something in my gut was screaming, "Be careful." I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was being ridiculous. After all, everyone else thought he was great. Fast forward a few months, and Mike had become a regular part of our friend group. He was always around, always the life of the party. But that uneasy feeling never went away for me. I kept it to myself, though. I didn't want to be the party pooper, or the one causing drama over nothing. Then, bit by bit, things started coming out. Mike would borrow money and never pay it back. He'd tell stories that didn't quite add up. He'd make promises he never kept. It turned out my gut feeling was right all along. Mike wasn't the great guy everyone thought he was. He was manipulative and untrustworthy. This experience was a real eye-opener for me. It made me start paying attention to those gut feelings. And you know what? The more I listened, the more accurate they seemed to be. It wasn't just about spotting the bad guys either. I started trusting my instincts about good people too, and it led me to some amazing friendships and opportunities. That's when I realized this isn't just some random thing. This is a real skill, a kind of spiritual intuition that we all have. It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. And the best part? You've been developing this skill your whole life, whether you knew it or not. Okay, are you ready for the big reveal? Here it is. Your intuition, those gut feelings you get about people, they come from your subconscious mind, observing and studying others all the time. That's right. You've been a secret people watcher your whole life. Now, I'm not talking about creepy stalker-level watching. This is something we all do naturally, without even thinking about it. Every time you interact with someone, every time you're in a room full of people, Your brain is taking in tons of information. It's noticing facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and all sorts of tiny details that you might not consciously register. Think of your brain like a super advanced computer. It's constantly running in the background, processing all this information. It's comparing what it sees and hears to all your past experiences. It's looking for patterns, for things that match up with what you've seen before, and for things that don't quite fit. When you get that gut feeling about someone, it's because your subconscious mind has spotted something important. Maybe it's noticed that the person's words don't match their body language. Or maybe it's picked up on a pattern of behavior that reminds you of someone from your past. Your conscious mind might not have put all the pieces together yet, but your subconscious is sending you a message. This is why first impressions are often so powerful. In those first few moments of meeting someone, your brain is working overtime. It's taking in everything about them, how they stand, how they shake your hand, the tone of their voice, the look in their eyes, and it's comparing all of this to every other person you've ever met. That's a lot of data to process. But here's the really cool part. This isn't just about judging people or spotting potential threats. This ability can help you in so many ways. It can help you connect with people who are genuinely good for you. It can help you navigate tricky social situations. It can even help you in your work life, giving you insights into coworkers, clients, or customers. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but I'm terrible at reading people. Or, I always seem to trust the wrong people. Here's the thing. You're probably better at this than you think. We often ignore or doubt our intuitions because we can't explain them logically. We think we need solid proof or a good reason for our feelings. But that's the beauty of intuition. It doesn't always come with a logical explanation. It's your subconscious mind trying to tell you something important, even if it can't put it into words. The key is learning to listen to it, to trust it, and to act on it. Of course, this doesn't mean your intuition is always 100% right. We all have biases and past experiences that can sometimes cloud our judgment. But more often than not, especially when it comes to reading people, your gut feelings are picking up on something real. So the next time you get a strong feeling about someone, whether it's good or bad, pay attention to it. Don't brush it off or ignore it. Take a moment to tune in to what your intuition is trying to tell you. You might be surprised at how accurate it can be. Remember, you've been studying people your whole life. You've seen thousands of interactions, experienced all sorts of relationships, and learned countless lessons along the way. All of that knowledge is stored in your subconscious mind, ready to help you navigate the world of human interactions. This is your spiritual superpower, your inner wisdom. It's a gift that you've been developing all along, even if you didn't realize it. And the more you acknowledge it, the more you trust it, the stronger it will become. So, let's dive deeper into how this amazing ability works, how you can recognize when it's speaking to you, and how you can develop it even further. Because once you start tapping into this power, you'll be amazed at how it can transform your relationships, your decisions, and your life. Now, you might be wondering, if I've been studying people all this time, why don't I feel like an expert? Well, that's because a lot of this studying happens below the surface of your conscious mind. It's like breathing. You do it all the time, but you don't usually think about it. Your brain is constantly taking in information, processing it, and storing it away for future use. Think about how you learned to walk as a baby. You didn't sit down and study physics or anatomy. You didn't consciously think about balance and momentum. You just kept trying, falling, and trying again. Your brain was learning the whole time, adjusting your movements bit by bit until walking became second nature. Reading people works in a similar way. Every interaction you've ever had, every person you've ever met, has been a learning experience for your brain. You've been picking up on patterns of behavior, learning to recognize emotions in people's faces and voices, and figuring out how different types of people tend to act in different situations. All of this learning has been happening in the background, without you having to think about it consciously. It's like your brain has been building this huge database of human behavior, and your intuition is the search engine that helps you access that information when you need it. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Your intuition doesn't just draw on your personal experiences. It also taps into something deeper, something that some people might call collective consciousness or universal wisdom. This is where the spiritual aspect comes in. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt like you've known them forever? Or walked into a room and immediately sensed the mood even before anyone said anything? These experiences go beyond just reading facial expressions or body language. They're tapping into a deeper level of connection between all of us. This is why intuition is often described as a spiritual gift. It's not just about logic or conscious observation. It's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves, something that links all of us together. When you trust your intuition, you're not just trusting your own experiences. You're tapping into a vast network of human understanding that goes back generations. Now, I know this might sound a bit out there for some of you. Maybe you're more comfortable with the idea of subconscious observation than spiritual connection, and that's okay. The beautiful thing about intuition is that it works whether you believe in the spiritual aspect or not. The important thing is that you start paying attention to it. So, how can you start tapping into this amazing ability more consciously? Well, the first step is simply to acknowledge that it exists. Start paying attention to those gut feelings, those hunches, those moments when you just know something without knowing how you know it. Don't dismiss these feelings as silly or irrational. Instead, get curious about them. When you have a strong intuition about someone, take a moment to check in with yourself. What exactly are you feeling? Where in your body do you feel it? Is it a tightness in your chest, a flutter in your stomach, a tension in your shoulders? Learning to recognize how your intuition speaks to you is key. For some people, it's a physical sensation. For others, it might be more of a mental image or a sudden thought. There's no right or wrong way to experience intuition. It's unique to each person. Once you start recognizing these intuitive signals, the next step is to start trusting them more. This doesn't mean you have to act on every hunch you have, but it does mean giving your intuition a seat at the table when you're making decisions, especially about people. For example, let's say you're in a job interview. On paper, the position looks perfect. The salary is good. The company seems great, but something feels off. You can't put your finger on it, but there's a nagging feeling that this isn't the right place for you. In the past, you might have ignored this feeling. You might have told yourself you were just being nervous or picky. But now, knowing what you know about your intuition, you might decide to pay attention to that feeling. Maybe you ask a few more questions, or you take a closer look at the company culture. You might even decide to turn down the job if that feeling persists. This is your intuition in action. It's drawing on all your past experiences, all your subconscious observations, to warn you that something isn't quite right. Maybe your subconscious picked up on some tension between the employees, or noticed that the interviewer seemed stressed or unhappy. These might be things you didn't consciously register, but your intuition is bringing them to your attention. Now, this doesn't mean your intuition will always steer you away from things. Sometimes your gut will tell you to go for something, even when it doesn't make logical sense. Maybe you meet someone and instantly feel a connection, even though they're not your usual type. Or maybe you have a strong urge to take a class or learn a new skill, even though it doesn't seem relevant to your current life or career. These positive intuitions are just as important to pay attention to. They're often guiding you towards growth, towards new experiences that will enrich your life in ways you can't yet see. The key is to start seeing your intuition as a valuable source of information. It's not about ignoring logic or common sense. It's about integrating your intuitive wisdom with your rational thinking. When you learn to balance these two aspects, the logical and the intuitive, you'll find that your decision-making becomes more well-rounded and often more accurate. Remember, you've been studying people your whole life. You've been gathering data, learning patterns, and developing this incredible ability to read between the lines. Your intuition is the result of all that learning, all that experience. It's a powerful tool that's always there to guide you. So, the next time you get a strong feeling about someone or something, take a moment to tune in. Listen to what your intuition is telling you. You might be surprised at the wisdom you find there, because you are right about them. You've been studying them all along, and your intuition is ready to share what it knows. Let's dive deeper into how this amazing intuition of yours actually works. It's like having a supercomputer in your head, but instead of circuits and chips, it's built from all your life experiences. Your brain is constantly taking in information, even when you're not aware of it. It's like a sponge, soaking up every little detail about the people and situations around you. Think about the last time you walked into a room full of people. Without even trying, you probably picked up on the mood of the room. Maybe you sensed tension or excitement or boredom. That's your intuition at work, processing hundreds of tiny clues in an instant. It's noticing things like body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and even the way people are standing or sitting in relation to each other. But it goes even deeper than that. Your brain is also comparing what it sees to every other social situation you've ever been in. It's looking for patterns, for things that match up with past experiences. This is why sometimes you might meet someone new and instantly feel like you can trust them, or why you might get a bad vibe from someone even though they haven't done anything obviously wrong. Here's the really cool part. Your brain does all this without you having to think about it consciously. It's like breathing or blinking. It just happens automatically. And when your brain spots something important, something that doesn't quite fit the usual pattern, it sends you a signal. That's what we call a gut feeling or an intuition. Now you might be wondering, if my brain is so good at this, why do I sometimes misread people? Well, that's because intuition isn't perfect. It's based on your past experiences, which means it can sometimes be influenced by biases or misconceptions you might have. Plus, people are complicated. Sometimes even the best intuition needs a little help from conscious observation and logical thinking. But here's the thing. The more you pay attention to your intuition, the more accurate it becomes. It's like any other skill. The more you practice, the better you get. And the cool thing is, you've been practicing your whole life without even realizing it. So how do you know when you're tapping into this intuitive superpower? Well, there are a few signs to look out for. First up, there's that classic gut feeling we talked about earlier. Maybe you feel a tightness in your stomach or a fluttery feeling in your chest. Some people describe it as a sudden warmth or coolness spreading through their body. Everyone experiences it a little differently, but the key is that it's a physical sensation that comes along with a strong feeling about a person or situation. Another sign is when you find yourself knowing things about people without being told. Have you ever been talking to a friend and suddenly known they were upset about something even though they were acting normal? Or maybe you've met someone new and instantly had a sense of what kind of person they are. That's your intuition at work, picking up on subtle cues and comparing them to patterns you've seen before. Sometimes your intuition might show up as a sudden thought or image in your mind. Maybe you're thinking about calling a friend, and then they call you. Or you have a dream about someone you haven't seen in years, only to run into them the next day. These coincidences are often your intuition picking up on subtle clues and making connections your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. Another big sign is when you find yourself being right about people more often than not. Maybe you're the friend everyone comes to for advice about relationships because you seem to have a knack for figuring people out. Or maybe you're really good at your job because you can read clients or customers easily. If you find yourself being good at understanding people's motivations or predicting their behavior, that's a sure sign your intuition is hard at work. One more sign to look out for is when you feel drawn to certain people or repelled by others for no apparent reason. You know that feeling when you meet someone and instantly click, like you've known them forever. Or on the flip side, when you meet someone and just feel uncomfortable around them, even though they haven't done anything wrong. That's your intuition sending you important signals based on all the subtle information it's picking up. The key thing to remember is that intuition is personal. The way it shows up for you might be different from how it shows up for someone else. The important thing is to start paying attention to these signals, whatever form they take for you. The more you notice them, the stronger and clearer they'll become. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this intuition stuff is interesting, but why does it really matter? How is it going to help me in my everyday life? Well, let me tell you, understanding and trusting your intuition can be a total game changer in pretty much every area of your life. First off, let's talk about relationships. Whether we're talking about friendships, romantic partnerships, or even work relationships, being able to read people accurately is huge. Your intuition can help you spot genuine people who will lift you up and support you. It can also help you steer clear of toxic individuals who might bring drama or negativity into your life. Think about how much time and energy you could save if you could quickly sense whether someone is trustworthy or not. No more wasting months or even years on friendships or relationships that aren't good for you. Instead, you can focus your energy on building deep, meaningful connections with people who truly get you and have your best interests at heart. In your work life, strong intuition can give you a serious edge. It can help you navigate office politics, understand what your boss or clients really want, even if they're not saying it directly, and make smart decisions about your career path. Maybe you'll sense that a job offer isn't quite right for you, even though it looks good on paper. Or you might get a hunch about a new project that turns out to be a huge success. But it goes beyond just personal benefits. Developing your intuition is a key part of your spiritual growth. It's about connecting with your inner wisdom, learning to trust yourself, and understanding your place in the bigger picture of life. When you tap into your intuition, you're tapping into something bigger than just your own experiences. You're connecting with a kind of universal wisdom that can guide you towards your true path in life. This can lead to some pretty amazing things. You might find yourself feeling more confident in your decisions, more at peace with yourself, and more in tune with your purpose in life. You might start noticing synchronicities, those cool coincidences that seem to guide you in the right direction. Life starts to flow more easily when you're in tune with your intuition. There's also a ripple effect. As you become more intuitive, you become better at understanding and empathizing with others. This can make you a better friend, partner, parent, or leader. You might find that people are drawn to you, sensing that you really see and understand them. And here's something really cool. The more you develop your intuition, the more you'll find yourself in the right place at the right time. It's like you're tapping into the flow of life. You might get a sudden urge to take a different route to work and end up avoiding a huge traffic jam. Or you might feel compelled to attend an event you normally wouldn't, only to meet someone who changes your life. This isn't about becoming psychic or having magical powers. It's about becoming more aware, more in tune with yourself and the world around you. It's about learning to trust that inner voice that's been guiding you all along. So why does this matter? Because life is short, and we all want to make the most of it. We want to surround ourselves with good people, do work that fulfills us, and feel like we're on the right path. Your intuition is like your personal GPS for life, helping you navigate towards what's truly right for you. Imagine how different your life could be if you always trusted your gut, if you could easily tell when someone was being genuine or fake, if you could sense opportunities before they even fully materialized. That's the power of cultivating your intuition. And the best part? You've already been doing this your whole life. You've been studying people, learning patterns, developing this incredible skill without even realizing it. Now it's just about bringing it to the surface, trusting it, and letting it guide you more consciously. So next time you get that gut feeling, that little voice in your head, or that unexplainable sense about someone or something, pay attention. Your intuition is trying to tell you something important, and the more you listen, the louder and clearer it will become. This is your superpower, your inner wisdom, your spiritual guide. It's time to start using it to create the life you truly want. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds great, but what if I'm just not intuitive? What if I'm always wrong about people? Or maybe you're worried that trusting your intuition means ignoring logic and making rash decisions. These are totally normal concerns, and it's good to question things. Let's tackle some of these doubts head on. First off, if you think you're not intuitive, I've got news for you. Everyone is intuitive. It's not some special gift that only a few people have. It's a natural human ability, like learning to walk or talk. The only difference is how much we've developed this skill. If you feel like you're not very intuitive, it's probably just because you haven't been paying attention to or trusting your intuitive signals. Think about it like this. Imagine you grew up in a place where everyone wore noise-canceling headphones all the time. You might think you couldn't hear simply because you never had the chance to use your ears properly. Intuition is similar. If you've been ignoring those gut feelings or always prioritizing logic over intuition, it might seem weak or non-existent. But I promise you it's there. It just needs a little practice to get stronger. Now, what about those times when your intuition seems to be wrong? Maybe you had a good feeling about someone who turned out to be not so great, or a bad feeling about someone who turned out to be awesome. Does this mean your intuition is faulty? Not necessarily. Remember, intuition isn't about being psychic or predicting the future with 100% accuracy. It's about picking up on subtle cues and patterns based on your past experiences. Sometimes, those past experiences might lead you to misinterpret a situation. For example, if you had a bad experience with someone who reminds you of a new acquaintance, you might get a negative feeling about them that isn't actually justified. The key is to use your intuition as a starting point, not the final word. If you get a strong feeling about someone, pay attention to it, but also be open to new information. Use your intuition alongside your logical thinking, not instead of it. Another common doubt is the fear of making rash decisions based on just a feeling. But here's the thing. Trusting your intuition doesn't mean ignoring facts or acting impulsively. It's about integrating your intuitive wisdom with your rational thinking. When you get a strong intuitive hit about something, take a moment to check in with yourself. Is this feeling coming from a place of wisdom, or is it driven by fear or wishful thinking? It's also worth noting that developing your intuition takes time and practice. You wouldn't expect to be a master pianist after just a few lessons, right? The same goes for intuition. Be patient with yourself. Start small by paying attention to your intuitive feelings in low-stakes situations. As you get more comfortable and see how often your intuition is right, you'll naturally start trusting it more in bigger decisions. So, now that we've addressed some common doubts, let's talk about how you can actually strengthen this intuitive superpower of yours. Remember, you've been subconsciously studying people your whole life. Now it's time to bring that skill into your conscious awareness and really develop it. First things first, start paying attention. This might sound simple, but it's the foundation of developing stronger intuition. Throughout your day, take moments to check in with yourself. How do you feel about the person you're talking to? What's your gut telling you about a situation? Don't judge these feelings or try to explain them away. Just notice them. Try this easy exercise. Next time your phone rings, before you look at the caller ID, take a guess at who it might be. Don't worry about being right or wrong. The point is to start tuning into those subtle hunches you have. You might be surprised at how often you're right. Another great way to develop your intuition is to practice being fully present in your interactions with others. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next or letting your mind wander, really focus on the person you're talking to. Notice their tone of voice, their body language, the words they choose. Your subconscious mind will pick up on so much more when you're fully present. Meditation and mindfulness practices can also be super helpful in developing your intuition. These practices help quiet the constant chatter of your conscious mind, making it easier to hear those subtle intuitive signals. Even just a few minutes of quiet reflection each day can make a big difference. Keeping a journal can be another powerful tool. At the end of each day, write down any intuitive feelings you had and what happened. Over time, you'll start to see patterns. You'll notice which types of intuitive signals tend to be accurate for you and which ones might be influenced by fears or biases. Here's a fun one. Try people watching in a public place. As you observe strangers interacting, see what you can pick up about their relationships or moods just from watching them. Are those two people on a first date? Is that group of friends celebrating something? This is a great way to practice reading nonverbal cues and tapping into your intuitive sense about people. Remember, developing your intuition is a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself and have fun with it. The more you practice, the stronger and clearer your intuitive signals will become. Now let's bring all of this to life with some real-world examples. These stories show just how powerful intuition can be when we learn to trust it. Take my friend Sarah, for example. She had been working at her job for years and was good at it, but something always felt off. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she had this nagging feeling that she wasn't on the right path. Everyone told her she was crazy to think about leaving such a stable job, especially in this economy, but that feeling wouldn't go away. Finally, Sarah decided to trust her intuition. She quit her job and decided to pursue her passion for graphic design. It wasn't easy at first, but you know what? Within a year, she had started her own successful design business. She's happier than she's ever been, and she often says that trusting that gut feeling was the best decision she ever made. Then there's my cousin Mike. He met a girl at a party and instantly felt a connection. It wasn't just that she was attractive or fun to talk to. He had this overwhelming sense that she was going to be important in his life. Some of his friends teased him for being so sure about someone he'd just met. But Mike trusted his intuition and pursued the relationship. Fast forward 5 years, and they're happily married with a baby on the way. These big life decisions are great examples, but intuition can help in everyday situations too. I remember a time when I was about to hire someone for my team at work. On paper, this candidate looked perfect. Great qualifications, lots of experience. But during the interview, I had this uneasy feeling. I couldn't point to anything specific they said or did, but something felt off. I decided to trust that feeling and keep looking. A week later, I interviewed someone else who, while less experienced on paper, felt absolutely right for the team. I hired them, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions I've made at work. They brought a fresh perspective and positive energy that transformed our whole team dynamic. These stories aren't unique. Once you start paying attention, You'll notice examples of intuition at work all around you. Maybe you've had a sudden urge to call a friend, only to find out they really needed someone to talk to. Or perhaps you've had a strong feeling about taking a certain route home, only to avoid a major traffic jam. The key in all these situations is that these people chose to trust their intuition, even when it didn't always make logical sense. They combined that gut feeling with rational thinking to make decisions that led them to better outcomes. So there you have it. You are right about them. You've been studying people your whole life, picking up on subtle cues and patterns, developing this incredible intuitive ability without even realizing it. Your gut feelings, your hunches, those inexplicable senses you get about people and situations, they're not random. They're not just luck. They're the result of your subconscious mind processing vast amounts of information and sending you important signals. This intuitive ability is your superpower, your inner wisdom, your spiritual guide. It's a tool that can help you navigate relationships, make better decisions, and live a more fulfilling life. But like any tool, it gets more effective the more you use it. Remember, everyone is intuitive. If you feel like your intuition isn't very strong, that's okay. It just means you haven't been practicing. Start small. Pay attention to those gut feelings. Notice the subtle signals your body and mind send you about people and situations. Be patient with yourself as you develop this skill. And most importantly, trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. Your experiences, your observations, your subconscious learning, it all adds up to a powerful inner wisdom. When you learn to tap into this wisdom, to balance it with your logical thinking, you'll find yourself making better decisions, forming stronger relationships, and feeling more in tune with your true path in life. So the next time you get a strong feeling about someone, pay attention. Your intuition is trying to tell you something important. You've been studying them all along, and now it's time to trust what you've learned. Your intuition is a gift. It's time to unwrap it and start using it to create the life you truly want. Remember, you are right about them. You know more than you think. Trust yourself. Trust your intuition and watch how it transforms your life. This is your journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Embrace it, enjoy it, and see where it takes you. You might just be amazed at what you're capable of when you start trusting your inner wisdom.